All right. So, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is I'll name this segment later, GTG spits that grease, etc., etc., etc. And if the title hasn't already given me away, let's go ahead and get into the situation. So, DSP apparently on the that had been on the 12th, actually, that bloated podcast where he felt the need to clap back and talk about his social experiment and yada yada yada. He took some shots at actually quite a few people, to be honest with you. What we're mainly going to focus on, excuse me, was August the Duck and surprisingly Joon the King. Now he actually took two shots at Joon. Most people would probably have told you, or maybe even you yourself if you had watched it or listened to it, you would have thought, oh no, he only took one shot at Joon. Excuse me. He would have only taken one shot at Joon. He didn't take two, but he actually did. He took a shot at Joon when he talked about how he feels like there's a missed opportunity and that he's basically upset that Joon wouldn't focus on his detractors, on these, in his own words, these mentally ill people who follow him around. They should have the spotlight put on them. Some of them are terrible people. Why aren't they being looked at? Why aren't they being microanalyzed? So on and so forth. Keep in mind, this comes from the same guy who's been praising SOK for the last few weeks. So keep that in mind. DSP doesn't have a problem doing that when he feels like it benefits him. But if he can't convince someone to do something, you want to have an attitude. But he actually took another shot at Joon. The whole July the Cuck situation. Now, obviously, most of you would think, oh no, that's just a shot at August, right? That's a shot at August the Duck. Actually, it's not. Well, it's not just a shot at August the Duck. It's also a shot at Joon as well. Yet again, and going back to my original point, I'm sorry. He's mad that he couldn't get Joon, or he couldn't convince Joon the King to do what he wanted as it pertains to doing a follow-up or even having a segment in the documentary of focusing on detractors, or even just doing a project solely on that. So he talks about in this thing about how people are uncreative, people have to leech off him, people are ticks, this, that, and the third. They can't make content, not real content, without using him. If you depend on Darksydephil to make content, you're not a content creator, you have no talent, yada, yada, yada. The July the Cuck situation is a shot at Joon and August. Basically, it's two birds with one stone, or two angry snorts at, or one angry snort at two people, whatever. But that was kind of the point of it. And let me go ahead and get into our situation. So when you guys hear it back later on, you'll kind of catch my drift. August the Duck. Now, he didn't put out a documentary on DSP. He put out like a 20-something minute video or whatever. The world's most greediest streamer or something along those lines. It was correct. It was true. You know what I'm saying? To be honest. So I don't see what exactly is the problem, but DSP obviously having another larger content creator, someone who is August must have 2 million subs, I guess, or whatever the case may be. Excuse me. The video at this point has to have over 150,000 views, if not more. And it's not someone that he can convince. I think he can't convince him to microanalyze the people that go after him, the people that may have even inspired August to actually do the video itself. So just lash out at the actual product, which is funny because I thought DSP didn't give a shit about that. He doesn't care what people say. He has very thick skin, allegedly. But then you're lashing out at this dude. So what's the point of that? And truth be told, it's just another one of the many videos on DSP that's made by a larger content creator throughout the year, right? That gets itself, 2, 3, 400,000 views and whatever, and then it just moves on. It's one of the many videos that are made on DSP throughout the year. It's all part of the cycle. I don't know why DSP is mad about that. Well, one of the reasons why is it's a direct contradiction. Yeah, it's a direct contradiction to the internet looking at DSP in a new light, in a different light, in a positive light. And DSP knows it. He knows nothing has really changed. In his little bubble, in his little safe space, under fucking PPP's, left tit, he thinks he's all right. You know what I'm saying? But the reality is nothing has actually changed. And that's why DSP is going to push throughout 2025, excuse me, and moving forward, this narrative of the detractors need to be looked at. They need to be microanalyzed. They need to be drugged through the dirt. My thing is don't you got a bunch of dents on your side already who know how to make content? Why don't you just have them do it? See, that's not gonna work. He needs people with status. He needs people that have respect. He needs people with large followings. He essentially needs people who are popular. And there's nobody on his end that even fits that criteria. I doubt to say, or I question to say, that that's ever been a thing on his side of the fence. Even though, admittedly, there has been some rather large content creators on DSP side at one time or another over the years. Most of them have faded out. So now he has to depend on a much larger content creator, someone that probably doesn't like him, thinks he's insignificant, or thinks he's a black eye to content creators and streamers anyway. He has to depend on them to do it. The problem is truth be told, there's no demand in that. There is no demand in going after detractors, trolls, haters, and critics. There just isn't. You know what I'm saying? Now, that doesn't mean there isn't flaws, there isn't issues, there isn't problems on this side. No one's saying that. But people care more about the content that is produced than not the person who produces the content. This, by proxy, is the exact same thing that Joon said when DSP tried to convince him to do detractor content and he wasn't interested. The product is far more interesting than the people who put it out. Truth be told, most people who make DSP content don't insert themselves into it in such a way that would require them to be spotlighted. We're just a bunch of faceless people that are doing it. Or the ones who do put their face out there, they're not trying to go ahead and be the center of the content. They're merely going over it. They're merely giving you an opinion. So he's fighting a narrative that's not going to work for obvious reasons, to be honest with you. On top of that, because, at least on the front face of it, detractors are kind of a united front. Who wants that problem or issue? Especially Joon. Joon probably still has PTSD over what happened with the low tier Gout situation all them years ago. You don't need those type of problems or issues, bruh. He probably don't. And August is usually getting into it with somebody, but it's just not worthwhile. You know what I'm saying? It really isn't. And that goes back to subs, like a sub count and views. It's useful in some ways and it's a deficit in others. There's no point in a 200 in a 2 million, sub channel going after a group of detractors. Because what more than likely would happen is if August has any skeletons in his closet, which I'm sure he does, we all do, they're going to eventually get brought out. That just becomes a problem that's not needed. Perfect example is look at Review Tech USA. Look at all the nonsense he pulled a year ago. If he had shut the fuck up when people said, hey, don't fuck up this Mike Clum's interview and whatnot, don't say or do anything that would cause DSP to end up pulling out of it, he'd be fine. I mean, that whole nonsense of being a top 2 detractor is just fucking mental illness, which told you that then, and it's proven itself now. But he would still be comfortable in his position until he figured out another way to fuck it up, which I had already told you that he was going to do that too. So with that being said, if Review Tech USA had played within the boundaries, if he had stuck to the script and played his part, he wouldn't have had any issues like he's having now. Now he getting chewed up on all these different sides for no goddamn reason because he don't know how to shut the fuck up and keep his emotions in check. Basically. Review Tech USA was a 1 million sub channel despite the fact that he was paying for views and subs. On the front facing, he was a 1 million sub channel. Look how quickly that happened. No one wants that. If someone as stupid as Review Tech USA can be brought down, anybody can. Over a long enough timeline, anybody can be brought to heel. It is what it is. That's not me making a threat or anything. That's just simple common sense. You don't pick fights with people that you don't need to. You know what I'm saying? And that's where this whole going after detractor thing just is silly as shit. It's just not a thing because it's not worthwhile. If they're willing to do, if they are motivated to do all of this stuff to you or about you, what the hell do you think they would do to them? Like, it's just simple common sense. It's basic mathematics. But DSP is an idiot, of course, and 2 + 2 is 5 in his book. So there's that. August is just another one of those guys who's made a video on Phil before. He's probably made a few. It's this time of year to go ahead and catch up on some of the dumb shit DSP's done. That's all it was. Joon June probably doesn't even want to do another documentary after this, being the whole debacle with the WWE champions that end up killing the first upload. Excuse me. Hence the reason why he had to upload again. And eventually it'll hit 1 million views, but you know what I'm saying? To lose all of that revenue off that first one, which was almost at 1 million, I think he's had his fill. No pun intended. Actually, pun intended. He's had his fill of fill. So there's the end of that. There's no point in picking fights with detractors for no reason. It doesn't get him anywhere. Now, the more interesting part, excuse me. Now, DSP lashing out at August makes sense. Him lashing out at June, though, him saying that he was lazy, saying that he went for content that was already out there anyway, and a bunch of other people did basically did the footwork for him, all the heavy lifting, if you will, and he didn't put any effort into it. Basically, DSP called him lazy, and called him even more lazy by saying, "Hey, that's the real reason why he doesn't want to do a documentary on detractors is because it's too much work." This is DSP's own words. These are his own snorts. He said it was too much work. You wanted to be lazy and have easy content. That's what DSP said he heard. Doing that does not help you at all. Now, granted, DSP has probably felt a certain type of way about how that documentary came out. Hence the reason why PPP told him, man, you shouldn't go over that. Just let it ride. It was probably a bad idea you reacting to it, because sentiments are going to come out of that shit that people don't need to see you react to, and maybe you shouldn't be reacting to. Maybe you shouldn't have an opinion on it. Just let it ride. DSP can't, because he's fucking mentally ill, and he fucking has a fetish for punishment, basically. So he put himself through it, which only exposed him and made him worse. So PPP gave him some pretty good advice by saying, yo, maybe you need to stay out of the fray on this one. And it is what it is. Like, it just doesn't, because it really just comes down to the fact that DSP he couldn't convince Joon the King to do what he wanted. And it is what it is. Now Joon just doesn't want to deal with any of it. And I don't blame him. Truth be told, it was probably never going to be in the cards anyway. At the end of the day, a single detractor is not the draw. Joon is. DSP is. Unless we have like another SOK type situation, and even then most people weren't interested in doing a documentary after that. At first there was quite a few people in a few different communities who were thinking, you know what, that might be a good thing to tackle. But then once you start getting deep into those weeds, once you start getting into the swamps with that shit, it's like, nah, we're good. We're gonna let that go. And for good reason. Because truth be told, the tactics that the SOK used has been adopted into a bunch of different communities. You go after one, you go after everybody. Or, for those of you who were around at the time, I had said that, hey, if Joon goes ahead and targets a detractor, he has to go after everybody. Can't just go after one or two. You got to go after everybody. Did Joon take that to heart? I don't know. He may have never even heard it. But if he's rational enough, he would realize, yeah, you really can't. You can't just go after one or two. You got to go after everybody. You literally got to go after everybody. And whether that's just too much work, or there is no demand for it, or it just becomes incredibly problematic in the long term, it's just not worthwhile. That's the reality. DSP's bitch fit comes from the fact that, yet again, his reputation has not changed. He's still the piece of shit. He's still a piece of shit. Everybody knows he's a piece of shit. He'll continue to be a piece of shit. His frustration with Joon stems from the idea that he's still trying to convince him to do the documentary on detractors. I'll go ahead and try to fill you in. I'll go ahead and point you out to people. And Joon's just like, man, I'm not interested. So I've moved on. And you could tell actually from that podcast or his daily therapy session, there was a couple of detractors that he's obviously wanting to go after. Or former detractors, however you want to word them. And my thoughts are, he's definitely looking at targeting Super Crazy, and he's definitely looking at going after Raven's Dolphin. Those are the two people I think most directly he wants. That's not going to get you anywhere. Like, you know what I'm saying? Whatever the situation is, whatever the problem was with that's been squared away. You know what I'm saying? So you bringing that up, putting some extra spotlight or whatever, every community has, you know what I'm saying, has their outliers, has their fuck ups, has their screw ups, and so on and so forth. It's all on how you handle it. So all that's going to do is just shine a light back on your ass. Anything that you want to accuse Super Crazy for, I'm sure that I know for sure I could go ahead and just throw that back on you, Phil. Anything you want to throw at Raven, I can definitely throw that back at you, Phil. It don't help you. It really don't. You're fighting a losing battle. And anybody who would have to participate in the research to go ahead and drum all that up, they're going to figure that out too. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, that's the situation on that. I thought it was interesting and whatnot because he's been fucking kissing Joon's ass for this goddamn long. I was surprised he was even willing to shoot that shot, but it shows that how he's still incredibly frustrated that he couldn't get Joon to do what he wanted, to move the way he wanted. And truth be told, I think now in hindsight, especially after the Grill Phil segment, the last one, DSP's come to the realization, you know what? PvP may be right. That documentary didn't do me no favors. It really didn't. Just like how DSP won't admit it, but that whole side scrollers thing, your first one, didn't do him any favors either. But he went ahead and kept on with it because he thought he could get, there was a payoff at the end by getting a reoccurring spot on side scrollers. Just like with Joon. He went ahead and kissed Joon's ass and everything after that documentary came out because he was always pushing for a follow-up that would go against detractors, trolls, haters, and critics. And it just never happened. It's not going to happen. It's just the way it is. DSP is someone who is very goal and or reward driven. You call me out on something and you're big enough to where I can't really do anything about you. Okay, I'll do what you want, but you have to give me a treat at the end of it. You know what I'm saying? I need to have a toy. I need to have a present. I need to have a surprise. I'm sorry. I need to have a toy. I need to have a present. I need to have a surprise at the very end of it. That's just how he works. Truth be told, that's how he justifies doing the fucking DSP tries it. I'm the one who motivates you guys. Well, him, not me. He motivates you guys to give him money. He's the one who's hyping up the event, this, that, and the third. And you guys got to pay up all this money. And then once he actually gets to do the DSP tries it, the payoff is not sitting there or is sitting there watching him eat and getting his opinion on it. Now, truth be told, that's not a payoff. That's absolutely retarded. But because DSP has conditioned these idiots to believe that they give a damn about some lame ass series that he had done damn near a decade ago, because the idiot is too lazy, too stupid, and too inept to learn how to actually cook anything except slop. You know what I'm saying? Except trash. You know what I'm saying? He got people to buy into it, even though we're sitting there having people buy us $100 cakes. And if the human garbage disposal, if his wife, mom, that works. If his wife, mom, cat doesn't actually finish the cake off, it's getting thrown away, which is ridiculous. That's crazy that you would waste someone else's money like that. But DSP don't give a shit about it. He doesn't give a damn about anything that's not self-serving, that doesn't meet his own ends. And truth be told, Joon the King and is the same way. He was another instrument. He was another means to an end to get what he wants. And Joon saw past the bullshit. Whether laziness, whether he just didn't see any value in it, whether he just didn't want to go through the problems of it. It is what it is. If DSP really wanted a spotlight on his detractors, trolls, haters, and critics, then he shouldn't have pulled out the Mike Clem documentary. But he did because he's a coward. He did because he saw what happened with Boogie, and he didn't want to be painted in the same light, despite the fact that there really isn't too many degrees of separation between him and Boogie. And even with the EDP one that's supposed to be in the works or in production or whatever. Same concept. Kind of, sort of. So, anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you guys think, but that's my take on it. To be honest, DSP constantly biting the hand that feeds him. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the reason why you should never give DSP any grace. You should never look at going out of your way to help him because he doesn't care. He doesn't appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? You're all serfs. It's utilitarianism. You're there to serve a purpose, and once that purpose has been served, you're expendable. End of story. Plenty of detractors, trolls, haters, and critics have tried to tell you guys this. Go ahead and keep going back there because you have nowhere else to go. That's the truth. You know what I'm saying? I've seen chat logs with some of you guys in Discords and whatnot trying to talk to detractors, this, that, and the third, and you guys seem completely and utterly out of place. You guys have forgotten what it's like to actually socialize with people. That's what it is. you're nothing more than an extension off another fucking NPC. And that's the reality of it. And you can continue to be NPCs until you're finally just knocked out of pocket by a more useful NPC. But whatever. Go with what you're comfortable with. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, yet again, thank you very much for listening in. I very much appreciate it. This is I'll name this segment later, GTG spits that grease, etc., etc., etc. And I'll catch you guys for the next one of these. Oh man. Like I said, like don't ever go out of your way to help Darksydephil. Burnell, DSP, Dark Geppetto, it's not worth it. And he'll never value it. You know what I'm saying? Down to the last dollar, to the last SSI check or disability check, to the last government stimulus check. Once the money runs out, you've lost your value in the story. And it'll never change. Something to think about. Take care of yourselves, people. Later.